February afternoon, 1974. -35 outside in Winnipeg. You open the front door to grab the mail. Your house stays warm because two doors with a tiny room between them trap the cold air outside, and nobody thought twice about it. This was one of the brilliant Canadian inventions that vanished over the past 50 years, features that kept families alive through blackouts and blizzards without needing a single watt of electricity. What did your grandparents know about surviving a dead furnace in January that could kill you today? Canadian homes from the 1950s through the 1970s were not built for comfort. They were built to keep people alive when everything else failed. Walk up to any house built before 1975 in Winnipeg, Thunder Bay, or Regina and you will see two front doors. Not one door with a screen. Two full solid doors with a small room trapped between them. This is the storm door vestibule, and it works like an airlock on a submarine. When someone opens the outer door in January, freezing air rushes into that tiny space. Close that door, open the inner door, and the cold stays trapped outside. The warm air inside never touches the -40-degree air from the street. That 3-foot gap saved hundreds of dollars in heating bills every winter and kept children from getting frostbite just walking to the kitchen. Go down the basement stairs in one of those old houses and you will find a room with thick concrete walls and no windows. The root cellar sits partially underground where the earth keeps it cold year-round. No electricity needed. No gas line required. The temperature in that room stays between 35 and 45 degrees all year long. Potatoes, carrots, apples, and canned goods could sit in there for 6 months without spoiling. When the power went out for a week during an ice storm, modern refrigerators turned into expensive boxes full of rotting food. The root cellar kept working exactly the same as it always had. Free refrigeration that never breaks down and never costs a single penny to run. Up in the bathroom, the hot water tank sits higher than every faucet in the house. Gravity-fed hot water means that even when the power dies and the pump stops working, hot water still flows. The tank drains downward through the pipes using nothing but gravity. No electricity needed to take a hot shower during a blackout. No generator required to wash dishes or fill a bathtub. Modern homes put the tank in the basement and use electric pumps to push water upward. When the power goes out, the water stops. Old Canadian homes understood that gravity never takes a day off. Look at the outside walls in those houses and you will notice they are thicker than walls in newer homes. Much thicker. The north wall, the one that faces the worst winter winds, has 2 complete walls with a 6-inch gap filled with sawdust or newspaper between them. Double wall construction on the north side created a dead air space that blocked the cold better than any insulation sold in stores today. Heat stays inside. Cold stays outside. The family stays warm. Walk across the floor in the living room and you will find metal grates built right into the floorboards. Floor furnace grates let heat rise from the basement furnace up through every level of the house. Hot air travels through the grate in the living room, rises up the staircase, and warms the bedrooms on the second floor without any fans or pumps or electricity. Natural heat distribution that worked perfectly every single day for 50 years. These were not just features. They were survival systems built by people who understood that Canadian winters do not forgive mistakes. These features were not just clever ideas or nice additions to a house. They were backup systems built on top of backup systems because Canadians knew that winter does not care about your modern conveniences. Out behind the main house, connected by a covered walkway, sits a separate small building with its own stove and sink. The summer kitchen kept cooking heat out of the main house during July and August. Baking bread or canning vegetables in a summer kitchen meant the house stayed cool. In winter, that same building became cold storage or a workshop. One structure, 2 purposes, no wasted space. Modern homes pump air conditioning through the whole house all summer to fight against heat from the kitchen stove. The summer kitchen solved that problem in 1920 without using a single watt of power. Inside the main house, a metal chute drops straight down from the second-floor bathroom to the basement laundry room. The laundry chute was not just about convenience. Hot air rises. Cold air sinks. That open chute let warm air from the basement furnace flow upward through the house while dirty clothes dropped downward. Natural air circulation built right into the walls. Close the small door at the top and you control how much heat rises. Open it wide and the whole second floor warms up fast. Look above every interior door in those old homes and you will see small windows built right into the wall above the door frame. Transom windows let air move between rooms even when doors stayed closed for privacy. Hot air from the kitchen flowed through the transom into the dining room. Cool air from the bedroom window circulated into the hallway. The whole house breathed like a living thing without any fans or ductwork. Between the house and the garage, a covered walkway with screens on both sides created a breezeway. Another thermal buffer zone. In winter, the breezeway trapped cold air before it reached the kitchen door. In summer, it caught every breeze and funneled cool air into the house. Park the car. Walk through the breezeway. Enter a home that stays comfortable year-round. On the outside basement wall, a small metal door covers a chute that drops down into the coal bin inside. The coal delivery man could dump fuel directly into the basement without ever entering the house. No dirt track through the kitchen. No doors left open letting heat escape. The coal chute with its interior door meant fuel delivery happened in under 2 minutes even in a blizzard. Then in 1975, something changed. Building codes written by committees in warm American cities started getting applied to Canadian homes. Nobody questioned it. Nobody asked if those rules made sense for -40-degree winters. And slowly, quietly, the brilliant features that kept Canadian families alive began to disappear. The generation that survived the Depression understood one simple rule. If it needs electricity to work, it is a luxury, not a lifeline. Every feature they built into their homes had to function when the power died, when the gas stopped flowing, when everything modern failed. Stand next to a cast iron radiator from a 1960s Canadian home and put your hand on it. That metal weighs 200 pounds and it stays hot for hours after the furnace shuts off. Thermal mass heating means the radiator absorbs heat when the furnace runs and releases it slowly all day and all night. Modern baseboard heaters cool down in 10 minutes. Cast iron radiators kept rooms warm for 6 hours after the fuel ran out. That difference kept children safe during overnight furnace failures. Open the cupboard door next to the chimney upstairs and feel the warmth pouring out. The clothes-drying cupboard sat right against the brick chimney where waste heat from the furnace or wood stove rose up through the house. Hang wet clothes in there at night and pull them out bone dry in the morning. 0 electricity used. 0 gas burned. Just free heat that would have escaped through the roof anyway. Modern dryers cost 50 cents per load and break down every 5 years. The drying cupboard worked perfectly for 80 years without a single repair. Walk around to the basement windows and look at the metal covers over the window wells. Those deep concrete or metal wells dropped 4 feet below ground level with hinged covers on top. They let daylight into dark basements through windows that sat below the frost line. The covers kept rain and snow out but let light pour in. Modern homes put tiny windows at ground level that leak cold air and let water seep through. Window wells with metal covers solved both problems in 1935. Step into the back entrance of any old farmhouse and you will find a whole room dedicated to the mess of Canadian winter. The mud room with its sloped concrete floor and drain in the center meant snow and mud and salt got hosed down and washed away. Take off your boots, hang up your soaking coat, hose down the floor. The water drains outside and nothing ever tracks into the kitchen. Freeze-proof entry design that modern homes abandon for carpet and vinyl that gets destroyed every winter. Before electric refrigerators, the ice block cooler sat in the basement or back porch. A wooden box lined with zinc or tin with a compartment on top for a 50-pound block of ice. The iceman delivered twice a week. That block kept food cold for 3 or 4 days in summer. In winter, you just opened the back door and used nature. Simple mechanical cooling that never broke down and never needed repairs. The wood stove with a water jacket built into the firebox was perhaps the most brilliant design of all. Dual-purpose heating meant one fire did two jobs. The stove heated the room. The water jacket heated water for the whole house. Copper pipes ran from the jacket to the hot water tank upstairs. Gravity moved the hot water up and cold water down. One cord of wood. Two complete systems running. No electricity. No gas bill. No dependence on anyone. The 1998 ice storm tells you everything about what was lost. 6 days without power across eastern Canada. An 83-year-old woman in rural Ontario never felt cold once in her 1947 farmhouse, root cellar full of food. She stayed warm and fed and safe. Her neighbor in a brand new modern all-electric home got hypothermia within 36 hours and barely survived. The difference was not luck or money. The difference was knowing that electricity is not a guarantee, it is a gamble. Canadians did not just lose clever features. They lost the knowledge of how to survive without the grid. They lost the ability to live through a crisis without depending on corporations to keep them alive. Look up at the roof and count the chimneys. 2 separate chimneys meant 2 separate heating systems that never depended on each other. If the oil furnace died, you fired up the wood stove. If the wood ran out, you switched to the furnace. Dual chimney systems guaranteed that a family never went without heat no matter what failed. Modern homes have one furnace, one fuel source, one point of failure. When that furnace dies at 2 a.m. in February, everyone suffers until a repairman shows up. Go back down to the basement and find a large concrete tank built into the floor with a hand pump mounted on top. The cistern with hand pump collected rainwater and well water. Even when the electric pump stopped working, the hand pump kept going. 30 seconds of pumping filled a bucket with clean water. No electricity. No dependency, just human power and simple mechanics. Modern homes lose water the moment power dies because every pump needs electricity to function. That same basement had sturdy wooden shelves built into the walls that held hundreds of glass jars filled with food. Built-in canning shelves meant food security through winter. Tomatoes, pickles, jam, and vegetables all preserved by hand and stored for the cold months. A family could survive for 6 months on what sat on those shelves. Modern families have 3 days of food in the house. When grocery stores close during a storm, panic sets in immediately. The basement also contained an unfinished workshop area with a workbench, vise, and walls covered in tools. Something broke, you fixed it. A chair needed glue, you glued it. A door hinge squeaked, you oiled it. Children learned by watching their fathers and grandfathers solve problems with their hands. Those concrete floors and exposed beams were not just unfinished space. They were classrooms where repair culture lived and practical knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Modern homes have finished basements with carpet and drywall, beautiful but useless when something needs fixing. Up on the second floor, a screened-in porch attached to the bedroom provided natural cooling before air conditioning existed. The sleeping porch caught every summer breeze. Families slept out there in July and August when the house got too hot. No electricity needed. No expensive cooling system required. Just screens, fresh air, and comfortable sleep. In 1982, the National Building Code eliminated requirements for backup heating systems. Not because they were dangerous, not because they stopped working, but because the oil companies wanted Canadians dependent on fuel delivery. The utility companies wanted them locked into the grid. And the construction industry wanted them buying new houses instead of maintaining old ones. The knowledge died. The skills disappeared. And an entire generation grew up believing that survival without electricity was impossible. Every window in older Canadian homes had a second set of frames that attached to the outside in October and came off in April. The storm window system created a dead air space between 2 layers of glass that stopped cold better than any modern window. Each storm window had small holes drilled at the bottom to let moisture escape so ice never formed between the panes. Families spent 1 weekend every fall putting them up and 1 weekend every spring taking them down. That twice-yearly ritual cut heating bills in half and kept houses warm enough to survive furnace failures. Modern homes have sealed double-pane windows that cost $400 each to replace and still let more cold through than stone windows that cost $12 in 1960. Down in the basement, tucked away in a corner, sat a row of car batteries wired together and connected to critical circuits in the house. Whole house battery backup from the 1940s and 50s kept lights on and radios working when power lines went down. Not enough power to run everything, just enough to keep a family safe and informed during emergencies. Farmers and rural families knew that power outages lasted days, not hours. Those batteries charged slowly when power flowed and discharged slowly when darkness came. Original off-grid preparation that modern people spend thousands of dollars trying to recreate with solar panels and Tesla Powerwalls. Every single one of these features is illegal to build in new construction today. Not because they do not work. Not because they are dangerous. But because they work too well. A house that does not need constant power, constant repairs, and constant upgrades is a house you actually own. And the system cannot let you own anything anymore. Storm windows violate energy codes written by companies that sell expensive replacement windows. Root cellars violate food safety regulations written by grocery store lobbyists. Dual heating systems violate building codes written by furnace manufacturers. Wood stoves with water jackets got banned for emissions standards that force you to buy gas or electric. Every path to independence got quietly made illegal. Look at what happens now when the system fails. Texas freezes in 2021. People die in their modern homes because houses built for air conditioning cannot hold heat. California burns every summer. People evacuate houses that cannot survive 3 days without electricity for cooling. Power grids fail in storms. Families freeze or roast because modern homes are completely dependent on power flowing 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Your great-grandparents lived through worse, much worse. They survived the dirty 30s. They survived wars and depressions and winters that killed livestock in the barns. And their houses protected them because those houses were built to function when everything else failed. Canadians traded resilience for convenience. They traded independence for dependence. They traded survival for comfort. And when the power goes out, and it will go out, people will finally understand what got lost. The generation that built these homes is almost gone. They tried to teach their children and grandchildren this knowledge. But everyone thought new was better, modern was smarter, and old ways were just nostalgia. Now that generation is dying and taking 200 years of survival knowledge with them. Someone needs to collect this information before it disappears forever. Someone needs to remember what kept families alive before electricity and gas and the grid. Because next time the power fails for a week in January, that knowledge might be the only thing standing between survival and freezing to death in a modern house that cannot protect you.